Welcome to Rethinking Parenting. My name is Cristina Young, and I teach parents of teenagers. Join me here on Fridays to learn practical tools, strategies, and scripts designed to help you manage the challenges of raising teens in today's complex world. Welcome back to Rethinking Parenting. I am thrilled to tell you that I have two wonderful guests joining me on today's episode. I think you're going to love it. It's called Unshakable, Growing Girls Who Know Their Worth. We talked about cultivating self-love and acceptance in our teenage girls. These are brilliant moms. They're successful and they're raising girls and boys, but we talked about their teenage girls. I want to tell you just a little bit about the two moms who decided to join me. Dana Myers is a transformational mentor, speaker, and event facilitator who helps individuals and teams unlock intuition, align goals, and achieve breakthrough results. A seasoned entrepreneur and founder of the global brand Booty Parlor. Go, Dana. Dana now blends her business expertise with tarot, intention setting, and creative ritual to inspire personal and professional growth. Based in Miami, she shares her magic with her two beautiful kids and loving husband and gratefully receives theirs in return. Dana is just fascinating to me. She grew up so differently than me. She's a hoot. She's brilliant, super successful. You're going to enjoy her insights. Angela Caritas is a mother of three and founder of Awake Surf Collective, a community that empowers women to push beyond their limits and rediscover adventure in midlife. Through surfing, wake surfing, and foiling, she encourages women to step outside their comfort zones and embrace new challenges. Off the water, you'll almost always find her on the sidelines of a sports field cheering on her kids. Again, amazing woman, super inspiring, crazy badass. You have to follow her on Instagram to watch what she does on the water. Anyway, huge thank you to Dana and Ange. You're going to love this episode. Okay. I am so excited today because I get to welcome two fabulous women. I have Angela and I have Dana. And I'm thrilled that they wanted to join me for an episode of Rethinking Parenting. They have both been in my Monday parenting group for almost a year now. Ange has a son finishing 9th grade, another son finishing 7th grade, and a daughter finishing up 6th grade. And Dana has a son finishing 8th grade and a daughter finishing 6th grade. So they're in the thick of it. They are here doing all of the work. As the three of us brainstormed what to discuss for this podcast, we agreed on the importance of growing confident girls who feel strong in their bodies. And this is certainly reflected in a lot of our conversations in the group, certainly with all of our friends. I mean, we talk about all of this a lot, so it's important. This notion of helping girls build inner strength before the world tells them who to be really resonates with me. So by the end of this episode, I hope you have at least 3 suggestions of how you can empower your girl. So let's dive into this episode with Dana and Ange. I want to start by just sort of exploring the landscape with both of you. And the first thing I want to ask is, what challenges are preteen girls facing today when it comes to body image and self-esteem?
I mean,
where to begin, right?
I mean, when you say that, I immediately visions of girls on TikTok sort of dancing and flaunting and, the fashion that we see. I think that one of the biggest issues is like the drive to put everything on display at a very early age. Whereas when we were preteens and teens, we didn't have that visual coming at us. We had magazines and we had our peers, but we didn't have this constant stream of girls sort of just parading their bodies.
Right.
And not that that's a bad thing. It's a personal choice to do it, but it's a lot of immediate images from which you would naturally want to compare yourself to.
Of course.
So I think that's quite an issue, which is why I keep her off TikTok. But it's all the same, YouTube Shorts and all the other things.
All of it.
She's still seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I would say the access to the information and the assault of information nonstop.
It's relentless.
Yes, relentless.
It's relentless. Yeah.
And everybody's showing not only with everything they have, but like literally on displaying everything that whatever haul they're getting that day.
Yeah, the access to
Yes.
things. And I
Yes.
think in probably most big cities, but especially here in Miami, where, wealth is such a big, flashy thing, and things are so important, from cars to shoes to clothes to purses to everything, your bedspread, everything, really.
Everything.
So I think there's a big focus on things.
Yes. But I want to say a huge difference I noticed when I was raising my girls, and they started doing sleepovers. And I remember all of a sudden realizing, wait, you don't have any sense of privacy, do you? And that's so different than me. I was raised, and certainly it's the way my mom raised me, that certain things were private. And most definitely my body was private. Most definitely.
In what way?
Like my girls would parade around the house really almost naked.
Yeah.
Friends would come over and their friends, sleep over. Everybody's naked. And I remember it just struck me as so different than the way that I interacted with my friends. If we were at a sleepover, we weren't necessarily parading. Now, this could be the strict Catholic upbringing we're dealing with here.
I'm like, my mom was naked all the time.
I knew you were going to say that.
I was like, oh,
But I even notice it now on girls' trips, right? And people who are like very comfortable with having a roommate, people who are very comfortable in like parading out of the shower.
Yes.
That was not here.
No.
That's not how I grew up.
No.
It's not anything I've ever been around. And it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then you take it past the privacy of the body, and then it becomes the lack of privacy with just details. I just always notice as they were growing up and getting bigger in the house, like the lack of privacy all over the place, the willingness to have others be in their details was so different than me. And it's continued for sure.
I mean, like I said, my mom was naked a lot. So it was very normal, and not in like a gross way. She just wasn't trying to cover up.
Yeah.
And I don't really try to cover up, certainly around my son more, but definitely not around my daughter. But she wants more privacy. And so I think it's like swinging the other way. She definitely is in a phase. I was surprised yesterday. I had gotten some clothes for her from camp, and she was willing to try them on in front of me. Whereas recently I've been noticing she hasn't wanted to try things on in front of me. I was quite pleased about that. That she was open.
I mean, it's funny the way it's changed me. Now, if I go shopping with my girls, I'm absolutely happy to get undressed in the dressing room with them. I don't care because they don't care.
Yeah.
But it used to be that I cared and I was self-conscious getting undressed in front of them. It's fascinating. Oh my goodness. Okay. So we have so many other aspects of this to look at. I mean, this question we could do 6 hours on. How has social media changed the way young girls see themselves? I mean, where do we begin on that?
I think that there's this, focus on makeup and trends and beauty and whatnot. But I think back to when I was 13 and I was going to the drugstore and I wanted the Debbie Gibson Electric Blue mascara. Like, I think it exists in every generation.
For sure.
It's just a lot more.
It's just more pervasive now.
It's just more pervasive.
They can't step away from it. Like, I was thinking about what you were saying about the magazines. Like, sure, I sat and looked at 17 and Glamour and Vogue. But then it was done. By the time I got through the 52 pages of the magazine, it was over.
Yes.
And now it's never over. There's always access to more.
And it's not just a magazine, or it's your friend's editorialized closet and, makeup stash. And it's everybody looks in some way professional.
So how regularly are you in conversation with your girls about what they need to understand about social media and the way people present things and filter things? Is that a conversation that's happening?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I call a lot of BS on things, to try to help her understand that a lot of things are not real, that they're manufactured. Oh, the 60-second video that actually took her 3 hours.
Right.
Just trying to help her understand what's reality and what's not. I think trying to have a healthy sense of humor about things. I know that if I come down on her hard about anything, she will constrict and hold things from me.
Absolutely.
So I try to really stay open about things when we talk about social media.
Yeah, I try to listen to when she doesn't think I'm listening to whatever she's watching on YouTube, and then just ask her, instead of saying what I really think, ask her what she thinks of that person or that family or how it's being presented, just to try to get a sense of what she believes is real versus not.
Do you remember, it's a great tactic that you're using, Ange. Do you remember, I think we talked about this in our group, that at the age of 14, they develop that ability to be cynical. It's kind of a hallmark and like oh, thank goodness a lot of parts of 14 are hard, but that's a great part of 14 because it's the age at which they can say, oh, hold on now. I don't know if I buy that. So anytime we can get them in that practice of like, yeah, I see that. It looks amazing, doesn't it? Let's analyze it a little further and see, is that actually accurate? What filters, how many hours did they put into that supposedly 3-minute? It's a shame, but I almost think more than ever, we have to really hone their skepticism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So here's a tough question. At what age do you think girls begin to internalize these societal beauty standards? When does that start happening? When does that veil start coming down?
So our daughters are 12, and I think really within the last year, I've noticed more of wanting conformity, right? Wanting to wear what her favorite influencers are wearing or friends are wearing, wanting her hair to be, a certain way, which I think really up until this point, we were able to
skirt that a little.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm noticing a bit more, but I also think that, I'm sort of purposefully trying to have a little bit more of like a counterculture vibe in our house. Hex the patriarchy, and, do your own thing, be your own person. How boring is it that everyone's wearing their same thing? I try to influence her in that way.
How does she respond to that?
Well, she responds well.
Good.
She responds well. I think just in general, we're just a bit of like a more of an oddball family.
Right.
And both the kids have kind of embraced that like more creative, unique, we're not we're the weirdos, but we're definitely not.
We're doing it our own way.
We're doing it our own way. Although, of course, I see it in certain ways. She wants certain things, or tries on a certain hairstyle. But I'm very intentional about pointing out what's unique about her and celebrating what's unique about her, from her humor, to her shape, because, we're curvy in our family. Last night we were at a show and I was like gazing at her and she's like, what? I was like, your eyes are so beautiful. Your freckles, there's like a constellation in the sky. And then I went for it. I was like, your boobs are so gorgeous. Your hips are amazing. She's like, Mom, stop. But honestly, like,
oh my God, that's beautiful. Though.
I just had to say it,
Okay, hold on, Ange. Did your mom ever tell you that your boobs were beautiful?
No. Hard no.
My poor child.
My mom never said that to me.
My mom was always telling me how beautiful I was. My mom never said a single bad thing about my body. She never said a bad thing about my size. She never said one bad thing about me. So all I heard was how beautiful I was and how special I was and how talented I was and how funny. And she just believed in me so much that I couldn't help but believe in myself.
Of course,
even though I remember saying
to
her, like, Mom, you have to say this. You're my mom.
Yeah.
I still believed it,
of course,
on a cellular level. And so I think that Ange and I talk about it a lot in these days where our daughters are making interesting choices about their clothing and their bodies are changing so much right now. And we just constantly remind each other, like, the world will be cruel. It's our job to be complimentary. It's our job to be fully accepting. It's our job to like bite our lips so hard that they bleed in order to avoid saying anything that would dim their confidence. That's our job.
I want to piggyback on that and say I was just running a group a little while ago and we were talking about that notion of internalizing the maternal voice, so much so that it becomes your own voice.
Yeah.
And you're an example of having done that beautifully. And the more you can continue doing the things you're talking about doing, That's what you're doing. We're raising them to leave. Unfortunately, that is the truth. I know they're going to go, but we want them to leave with our maternal voice of you're beautiful, you're curvy. Look at those freckles. Look at those, all of that good stuff. And whether or not they're saying like you did, like, oh, you just have to say that because you're my mom. It doesn't matter. They are internalizing.
100%.
It's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about this idea of self-love. Okay. So first of all, I love this whole idea. And I want to know, especially because my girls are so much older than yours. What are you doing currently to sort of model this self-love, teach this self-love, help normalize it?
Yeah. I mean, all the things. I mean, my kids see me standing in front of the mirror and, you know, saying like, God, you're so hot. You're beautiful. You're amazing. You're so like, I walk around being like, I am calm. I am capable. I am confident and I'm so sexy. I mean, they just hear me saying the most ridiculous things to myself.
Amazing.
I'm just a big believer of if you fake it till you make it,
yes.
Act it to attract it. I was not a gorgeous preteen. I mean, I had the worst, someone cut my hair into like a curly mullet and it was a nightmare. I mean, I suffered.
Yeah. That gives me anxiety for you.
It was horrible, but my mom was there just being like, no, you're beautiful.
Oh.
And so I think that I just grew such strong self-worth of developing an internal voice. And so my kids see me modeling that internal voice.
I try to narrate a lot too of, because I'm less affirmations in self-love, but more of trying to demonstrate why I'm doing something. Like I'm doing something because it's really important to me. Mm-hmm. It's going to make me happy and it's going to make me better for you. Mm-hmm. And trying to help her or them really find what that is for them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I find, at least I grew up in a much different way, but I find that she's much more open to, like she has affirmation cards that someone gave me in her shower.
Wow.
And I think she is able to celebrate, her unique features. Like she has super curly hair and she's much more able to celebrate that and find it than I was.
I also think that you're modeling with what you do with Awake. You're modeling not just like physical strength. You're modeling this adventurous spirit
and
for her.
Can you tell us a little bit about Awake?
Awake is, it's a group in Miami, but we really are trying to inspire other women our age. And by reclaiming themselves and their adventure in the water. So sometimes that's surfing, sometimes it's wake surfing, foiling. It doesn't really matter what it is. It matters that you're doing it and you're trying it and you're living it.
I know. And you're carving out the time and giving yourself permission for that kind of joy and camaraderie.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Is, I think, a really great thing for all of our girls to witness and our kids to witness. And it is the thing that makes me feel alive and has the spirit that I had as a girl.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I just think it's this example of like, you can dream and then you can do it. And that I think is a great way to build confidence.
Yes.
Your daughter, your sons have seen you have a dream and create it out of nothing. My kids have seen me like have one career, which was all anchored in helping women feel sexy and confident and satisfied with themselves, which we talked about a lot. But then I stopped that and I was like, oh, I have a new dream. Let me create that. And I think just that alone is a confidence builder.
I agree.
That alone is like, oh, you set your mind on something, you figure out the way, you see how you seek support, and you create it. I mean, that is, I think, the essence of how to build confidence.
Yes.
And it's the reminder that whatever we're modeling is the most important.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that because my mom wasn't, or isn't a woman of many words, but I remember everything she did, right? Like I remember how she operated in the world and like she was fearless and still is. Like my mom, to her credit, at 70 has tried wake surfing in front of my daughter and my nieces to show them that like she can still try and she can still do it. So that's what I remember from her. Like this idea of I can do it. No one's going to tell me I can't.
When I think about self-love and ways that I've demonstrated it when my kids were little, but also demonstrating it now, I think about a conversation I had very, very recently with my 3 kids where they said to me, Mom, your interest in your own self-care is the best thing you can do for us. Your devotion to your self-care, to your business, to the things that bring you joy is the greatest parenting that you can do of us now that they're older and 20s
Amazing.
and moved out, which was one of the most touching things anybody's ever said to me.
Job done. Wow.
It was because it really, again, gave me permission of like, wait, so I'm okay. Like if I really deep dive even more into my work, you guys are good. And they're like, no, that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I love the modeling that I've done over all of these years of like, I have my own business. I taught myself everything I do. I never went to business school. It's the modeling piece of it is super important.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The most important.
And I also think there's a connection between self-love and whatever your own unique spirituality is.
Oh, yeah.
Finding those deep inner quiet moments where you're connecting to source or whatever it is that you connect to, as a way to resource yourself and as a way to ground yourself and as a way to settle yourself, right? And not be swayed by other people, what other people might say about your genes or what other people might say about your hair or whatever. If you've got this like deep inner core and connection, I think there's really something there for self-love as well. Sometimes I'll go and I'll be doing my spell crafting or my spiritual practice and Indy will come knock on the door and I'll say, no, this is really important to me. I'm resourcing myself. Like you need to honor that boundary. And she gets it now.
Yes.
And I just think that there's like a lot, it's not just affirmations or like telling people that you're beautiful, telling your children that they're beautiful. It's like really showing how you take care of yourself in all the ways.
And it's demarcating. I'm a mom and then I'm also a woman.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always say I am a woman who became a mother. Okay.
I like
great.
that.
I am a woman who became a mother.
I like
but this
that.
is what I desire and this is what I want. And this, this is, I have other aspects of my life.
Exactly. And I think sometimes that can get really blurry. I think about all the women I've worked with in my practice and the ones who struggled the most were the ones for whom that line was gone.
Yeah.
Erased.
Yeah.
It was just, I'm a mom 24/7. I have no identity other than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's really dangerous waters.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yes. And I think that at least in my mom's generation, right, that was what they were all fighting against, right? So I feel really lucky that we have the time and the resources to be able to find what that is for us.
It's such a lucky privilege indeed.
Yes.
Very. Yeah.
I would love to talk about the Sephora craze that
Oh
just
my gosh.
happened.
Yeah,
Can we talk about the
same.
Sephora craze that happened?
I'm really curious to hear from you guys because your girls are the age, and actually the girls are younger.
Yes.
Yeah.
It started.
What's happening? What is your take on it?
Well, I feel like it's simmering down a little bit.
Slightly.
But for the last 6 or 7, maybe it's been 9 months, I lose track of time.
A year.
Like
Solid year.
it was like an absolute craze. It's all they wanted to do. It was, big brands. I want this. And it was like trying to amass
Yes.
as much.
Like a small pharmacy in their own bedroom.
Yes.
Bravo to the Sephora marketing people because
Yeah.
I don't know how
It
they
worked.
did it, but they did.
But how did it start? What is your understanding of how it started?
That's a great question. I don't even know. It came in like a hot breeze
Yes.
in Miami.
I think it was like influencers, which it doesn't matter because my daughter up until this point hasn't had social media, but it's repurposed on YouTube and everywhere, right?
Yes.
So I think it probably started on TikTok or something, but it's, people going to Sephora, getting a haul.
Yeah,
and
the
then,
haul. Yes.
And then trying different products and, using them in different ways. And then it became about, I think at first we were probably excited because our daughters wanted to go to Sephora, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, okay, let's go look at some makeup. But it became like a real thing where it was constant.
Yeah, it was a constant, almost an obsession.
Yes.
And were the girls were they operating under the belief that they need to take care of their skin?
That was a part of it. That was a part of it. And I actually had to kind of clamp down on that. Like, listen, you have young skin. There are certain things you are not allowed to buy because it can harm your skin. This isn't something you need. But it got me thinking because, in coming here to talk about self-love and self-care and self-worth and the connection to makeup, my mom is a makeup artist, right?
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
so I grew up in the beauty shop with her.
Oh my gosh.
And every woman who would sit down in her chair would immediately start complaining about what they didn't like about themselves. And I saw that from a very young age. I mean, I remember the visceral feeling of like sitting in the corners. My mom was working. And then throughout the process of my mom putting makeup on them and teaching them how to apply their makeup and having a conversation with them, they would look up at themselves and something had changed. Like their inner beauty and outer beauty was revealed. And so I always grew up witnessing the power of makeup and girlfriend to girlfriend conversation. And so I became a makeup artist to help me pay for grad school. I've always loved makeup. I wound up creating a sexual beauty company. And yet, of course, I don't want my 11-year-old totally obsessed with like the consumerism side.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's the consumerism side.
Yeah.
So I grew up learning that makeup was not only about looking beautiful, but it was actually a tool for creative expression.
Yeah.
And so that's really how I try to influence Indy, which is like, what look can you create? Can you create a look from a show? Can you create like an animal? Like I really try to encourage her. If you're going to spend time with your makeup and on video, can you do something that's more creative, almost like it's your art?
I love that.
And I feel
that's
like
different. That's a different intent.
It is.
For
and
makeup.
For us, I feel like that has helped us through this Sephora craze is learning to, if it's her art, great. If it's just for looking a certain way and like keeping up with that look,
exactly,
then it makes me a little worried.
Yeah. And I'm not even sure at times if it's about the look or if like you're saying it's just consumerism.
The consumerism is hot,
I got
hot,
to
hot.
go and I got it.
Well, and from the parts that I heard about, it sounded like it was like, well, everybody has this shade of eyeshadow from the whatever brand. And therefore I too have to have, I mean, is that accurate? Do you think?
More so like what you said, I saw this influencer have it.
She had that.
Right. And that's the hot thing to get. Less about the peers a little bit, although all the peers were doing the same thing. But the influence was from someone they were seeing on social.
What is fascinating to me is that even the kids who are not on TikTok, for whatever reason, you see the trickle down effect.
Yes.
So that you don't even have to own a phone and you can still be sitting at lunch or running around outside and everybody's talking about it and therefore you're talking about it and you absorb it that way.
And the way they speak about it, I think that's what's most jarring to me. Sometimes if I hear them speaking to each other, themselves, like, you sound like the person on the video in the language that you're using.
I think that's their goal.
Yes. That I find terrifying.
Yes. Yeah. I'll give you an example. When my Riley, she's about to be 22, comes home, we joke that somebody needs to translate for me what Riley is saying. Because she's 22. Of course, she's watching TikTok every day. Yeah. And she has all of these phrases.
They call it brain rot. That's what Indy calls it, brain rot.
Brain
it's
rot.
like brain rot. That's the language.
Brain rot?
Rot.
Brain rot.
Yeah.
I've joked with Riley, could she please start a monthly newsletter for moms my age?
A new dictionary.
Exactly. The Urban Dictionary of TikToks so that I can understand what she's saying. It's crazy. What about warning signs? I'm curious to know if there were certainly some in my kids' time where something was taken too far. Or there was too much of a preoccupation with something regarding appearances. Has that been a conversation in your house, or have your kids mentioned anything like that?
Yeah, so I started seeing more of a focus on, which I think is very popular online, on like how you go to sleep. Like if you're using this curler and this mask and the lip tint and like all of that.
Yes.
That to me was a real red flag.
Red flag.
We talk about that a lot
because it involves buying 5 different products.
It does.
In order to go to sleep.
It involves like putting them all on and taking them all off. And then this idea that there's like the natural beauty isn't there.
Yes.
Right. So, that was, I think, a big red flag that we see.
Yeah.
The other day I was at brunch with my mom and and my daughter, and Indy went on Amazon and she pulled up a face sling that you sleep in.
Oh no.
And she's like, Mom, I need this. I have to keep my jawline snatched. And she was joking.
Snatched.
She was joking. She has a great sense of humor. She was joking, but of
She
course,
knew
within a
she'd
joke, there's
get a good
always
reaction.
something a little
Yes.
bit serious. And I was like, there is no way you're buying a
chance.
face
My God.
sling.
No chance.
And it was funny, but I guess it could also be considered a warning. I think, warning for me is always like, she went to try and close the other day for camp. And I was like, let's order online. It's just more forgiving than a dressing room. I really struggle in dressing rooms. I have my whole life. If I'm in a dressing room, it's guaranteed I'm going to cry. I mean,
one of our first outings was to the mall.
I know.
You were like, I have to go buy something. So will you just go with me? Cause I hate going to do the thing.
It's rough. I'm not good at it at all. And she had a hard time. And she came home and she was disappointed. And of course I'm like, well, that's cool. Dressing rooms are really hard for me too. And I just, we're making things, we're cutting things, we're finding things that fit in a different way. But I could see where if that sort of continues, the girls want to go to the mall, they want to try. I get it. Like they want to go to PacSun and Hollister and all these shops. To me, that's like, oh, I can see that being a bit of a red flag. Like fun turning into disaster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it is hard.
self-consciousness.
Yeah. And also like their bodies are just changing so much almost from week to week.
Yes.
It's very hard to find a fit, I think.
Yes. And what fit you 2 weeks ago does not necessarily
100%.
Because I think the middle school years are just, it's,
oh my God. You grow up, you grow out, you grow. I mean,
so
it's
tough.
a nightmare.
I also remember there was a dearth of the in-between clothes. You had the cute little girl clothes.
Yes.
And then you move into the sexy, like, I'm 21, I'm going out to a club clothes.
yes.
And
That's where we are.
I always remember thinking, okay, it's not my skill set, but somebody needs to design a line for middle school girls.
Yeah.
We
That's
talk a lot about what's
Oh my God,
appropriate.
totally.
Yes. Well, okay. So where are you? Are there events where they come down the stairs and they're in something that you're like, God, no, you can't leave the house like that? And what happens?
So yes, I think for sure. And I think, I remember as a girl coming down the stairs and my dad being like, no chance, go back upstairs, right? Or like rolling my uniform skirt, right? So I've seen my daughter do that. And, I think that's also part of growing up. And I'm like,
Absolutely.
if I don't, you do you in that way. But our conversation is more about, I don't want to shut down your self-expression, but it's my job to make sure you're appropriate in the world. And this is less about you and more about creepy people that could be looking at you or whatever. So we try to spend time there on what's appropriate.
Yes. Yeah.
Time and place when we should be wearing these things.
Yeah.
Right.
And there are a lot of moments where I just say, this outfit is not the battle. I'm going to save that battle for something else.
Exactly.
You do you right now. And I just say, yeah, you look great.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. It's like, and we'll see some pictures, not calling anybody out, but calling people out, at the school, at these parties where you see every single girl in the same exact dress and literally their vulvas are almost falling out. And I'm just going to say it because I find it really obnoxious and I don't know who's parenting these girls. So.
I was going to say.
Their mother may be saying we're going to pick the next battle. So let's give them some grace.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I'm
nice.
here for giving grace. I am. But it is confusing to me.
100. We're
It
in
is
that
confusing
weird,
to me.
where middle school's awkward, as we've established, but also it's the first time they're really going out to events.
Yes.
Granted, it's a bar bat mitzvah and it's very,
But they're presenting themselves to boys in their very first expression of how they might want to. My husband used to say when my daughters would come down in the teeny little, I can see your fallopian tubes.
That's funny. Yeah, trying to use humor, I think, is great.
It's very helpful.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm sure your kids do the same. I mean, then they'd run upstairs, put on an appropriate like Quaker dress and have a backpack.
Oh, yeah.
100.
I mean,
that's part of it. I feel
part of
like
it. It's
it's good
part
for
of
you.
it.
You have to work for it at least.
Exactly.
But I sometimes will joke with her, okay, I'm going to wear it. Right? Like, are you cool if I wear that to
I like
your?
that.
Yeah,
I like that too. I'm going to show up to the mother-daughter grade luncheon.
in that skirt that you say is not a skirt.
Great.
The micro mini.
Yeah.
I do. And I'm all for expression, but I also find that there's a part of me that's just like, that's not okay.
Well,
It's very strange because I'm all for all the things and I'm all for like, let's talk about pleasure.
I
And,
know.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I don't think you should be showing your vulva hanging out of a dress.
You can make a decision on what you want to wear and how you want to express yourself. But if you're doing it because everybody else is wearing the jean skirt and the
That's
tube
a
top,
good line to try.
if that's not you and that's not how you feel comfortable, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
Like I like pants with pockets.
Yep.
That's what I like. And I try to find that in my everyday wardrobe, right? If you love a jean skirt and a tube top, that's great. But let's decide if you really do.
Right. Or if you're just
that.
following
That's
along.
really smart.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
I feel like I have to throw in here the reminder that their developmental task at this age is to find their quote unquote tribe. I'm not sure that's a word we use, but they're trying to find their people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the rule, like the code for entry to a certain group of people is you have to wear this short, tight skirt. And so it becomes so important to them. They play by the rules because then everyone else in the group says she's playing by the rules. She's welcome in our group.
That makes me
She's
feel
one
sick
of us.
to my stomach.
I know.
That dynamic.
I know.
It actually makes me like
Yes.
filled with nausea.
But this is where you're doing great work at home, Dana, because you're swimming upstream.
Yeah.
A lot of parents give up and just play. They just play to okay, looks like everybody's doing it that way. But you're swimming upstream. And as we already said, you're filling Indy's head with words she can use to remind herself of why she's swimming upstream.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we shift to something a little bit more positive? Maybe specific ways, like activities and tactics that we can fill our girls with self-love, with positive affirmation, with the knowledge of like, I'm beautiful just as I am. Do you have actual concrete tactics that you're trying at home?
I mean, I do model a lot of mirror work to her. I don't know if she's doing it. She's probably, and she's like, Mom, it's so cringe, but I know it's going in on some level.
And tell us more, is that referring to when you stand in the mirror and say the different affirmations?
Yeah. And that's really just like if I'm beating up my thighs, which has always been the part of my body that I have not had as much self-love for.
Right.
I will like literally frog march myself into a mirror and put my hands on my thighs and be like, okay, I know I'm not loving you so much. And you're also really like sweet and you're also really juicy and you're also really strong. And, you know, and I will point out to her, you know, Indy, like I had cellulite when I was 10. I never had a muscular body. So I'll just say this is just like part of life, you know, and I was like moved to accept it as a young age. And so I just try to tell her stories of how I learned to accept myself and how I practice loving myself. I tell her a lot of stories. And I think that is a ritual in itself. I have tried getting her to journal. She doesn't love it. But I do I show her how journaling helps me. And so I think that at some point, just what I'm showing her, these practices of journaling, self-love, writing my own affirmations, saying my affirmations in the car. I mean, these kids hear me with my affirmations, and I will put on affirmation tracks. What are we listening to? But I think it's all going to go in at some point. So I model the rituals and then hope that she will absorb and make them her own. But I do just let her be wild. I just let her be wild. And I think just letting her be a little wild
is fabulous.
Is just saying, I accept you
exactly
in your wildness and your weirdness.
Yes.
And so hopefully she will just keep learning to accept herself more and more.
Yeah.
I would say our practice is really one of the things as a family is a non-negotiable for us is just physical activity. So even if someone is tired or doesn't feel well or isn't into a sport or something, like it's the one thing we force everybody to do, ourselves included, to feel better and to be proud of their body, the strength of their body. And also learning new sports and trying new things, right? That's so what awesome. We try to do too. Even if it's not something you end up loving,
I love the conviction that you have around that. There's so many confusing things about raising kids. And any time that we have conviction, and especially if it's a conviction that we share with our partner,
Yes.
because that's just unbreakable. No, there's nothing wobbly about that. That it just is.
Well, I say it kind of laughing because we don't, as a family, have a lot of convictions because everybody has big opinions. Right. But everyone has agreed in my family that like movement is a non-negotiable.
I love that.
You
That's
can
so
maybe
smart.
skip your homework or, you know, watch
But
YouTube,
go for your
but
run.
you are going to exercise.
That's
We're
so
going to
smart.
exercise.
That's so great.
And not to mention what you're inculcating in their body, like physically in their cells, in their bodies, so that as they age, they're always going to have that yearning to move and they're going to feel incomplete without movement.
Right.
I love that. And it brought up the idea of self-defense, which I always took self-defense. My mom always brought me to self-defense classes, and we started our girls in a self-defense class a while ago. It didn't really last as a class because the instructor, who's like a hardcore Krav Maga babe, wound up having the girls spar. And then once the word about sparring got out to all the parents, everyone dropped like flies, which I respect.
I think also,
but it's this stay back. It's this stay back thing that we had an actual.
Wait, tell us about that.
This is one of my favorite things about Dana, and I've seen it a number of times since we've been friends, is that she has no problem telling someone to stay back, like from her physical space.
Yes. I remember this.
Yeah. And so we've had a number of instances where actually in front of our kids, which has been amazing.
So good. Talk about modeling.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, she actually even made me a t-shirt that says stay back, but it's really teaching them to protect their space and to tell someone if they're making them uncomfortable in their space. And as they
using your body, because you actually throw your hand out as you shout, stay back.
I love this.
And so I think it's a very confidence building.
Definitely.
Activity.
Dana, can you tell us a specific time when you've done it?
Yeah. I mean, whenever, like, if, you know, there was an instance where there was like a, you know, potentially creepy person, coming across the street at us, and I just throw up my arm and I just shout, stay back.
I love that.
Well, there was a time when we were, you know, talking after an exercise class and someone came up and asked us, you know, for something, and we politely declined, and then we kept talking and they kept coming back and saying things. And then after the third time, she was like, stay back. I've told you, this is our space. Stay back.
Yeah.
It's so concise.
It's so freaking concise.
And I mean, anybody can remember those two words.
So powerful.
Obviously, it's all in your delivery.
It's really in the delivery.
But I like the addition of the hand.
Oh, yeah. The hand is everything.
The hand and probably the eyes and the face.
And we practice it. And we will just practice it. And
I love that. I'm teaching that to my girls, especially, but my son too. All three of them are in New York City.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They need it.
Yeah.
They need it.
100%. And I went to college in a city. I went to grad school in a city. I moved to New York City on my own at 21. And it was like, I was always, as a means of protection, I had my mace, but I was always looking left and right, looking forward and behind. I never go into a bathroom without first
surveying the area,
looking around the door before I actually step in. I'm just teaching her, you protect your own body, you protect your own safety. And I do think that's really also a confidence builder. No one's going to F with me.
Yes.
Right.
They'll F with someone who doesn't look like they're alert, but no one's going to F with me.
It's the alertness.
I also love that it's teaching herself. You're not relying on a man or somebody else bigger than you to provide your safety.
100%.
I would say, to build on that, I think that's a practical life skill. And I think that one thing that my parents really taught me was like, we're practical life skills, right? So that's what I'm also trying to teach her, so that she doesn't need someone else to put air in the tire or, you know, check the oil in the car. Like, just very practical things that make you feel confident as a person.
Exactly.
Like having a pocket knife to do all the things that you might need to do.
Yes.
Which I think has always made me feel capable.
Wait,
right?
I want to speak for a moment about my blue Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Always favorite thing.
Well, it was confiscated. because
Dang.
I mean, this is years ago and times were different, but I was foolish and I had it on my keychain and I went through TSA. And of course they were like, oh, hell no, you're not.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's my blue Swiss Army.
Totally.
It was so hard to part with it.
Yeah.
Because it does give you confidence. It makes you feel like you can handle any situation.
Absolutely.
Bingo. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm getting a new one. Mother's Day.
Yeah.
But I think
there's a balance. I think there's this balance of like, you know, my mom taught me how to protect myself. And my mom also taught me how to have a lot of fun with my femininity.
Okay,
that's beautiful balance.
To us. It's such a hard balance to strike.
Your mom should be a guest on this podcast.
I know. We're working on it. We're doing it.
Okay.
We're going to do it. But she like, you know, she's a very beautiful woman, but it's really like her essence that is, I think, the most magnetic. And I just watched her like operating through life, like harnessing, not misusing her beauty and not misusing her femininity, but harnessing it in a way that was quite magical in the way she was able to get the world to respond to her. Mm-hmm. And yet she also taught me how to be tough and brave and smart and prepared and, you know, dedicated and committed. And it was just like, okay, a girl can be both.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know, you can love your beauty and love your femininity and have fun with it and also protect yourself and also not be perceived as dumb or anything like that. And I think there's like, it's really worth teaching your girl both because it's fun to feel yourself as like a vibrant woman operating in the world. And it's fun to know how strong and confident and being able to change a tire and all those things.
Right. Having it in your back pocket if you need it, not saying you're going to use it. But
and
I agree.
I just want to acknowledge here so that I have a record of it, that the practical things, being able to change a tire, being able to, you know, fix a thing. Like you're always telling me like, I fixed my AC today. I'm like, how did you even know where to start? And you're the most capable human I know. I mean, the amount of times I say that, but like, that's an area where I would like to improve. So I'm going to mark that down as that's an area where I'd like to up level.
But I want to go back for a second, Dana, because what you're speaking of is a beautiful example we've talked about in the group of a both and.
Yeah.
And sometimes the human brain is so much more comfortable in a black and white.
Yes.
Like we do things this way and we do things that way. But that gray is so murky. And for some people, it's very uncomfortable to live in that kind of murky gray.
Yeah.
And that's the both and.
Yes.
But it's such a beautiful skill set to be able to do what your mom did. And I wonder about her mom.
Oh my God, Millie.
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 That's Indy's middle name is Millie.
Oh.
Millie, I mean, oh my God. Hi, Millie. I was actually thinking about Harold this morning when a song came on that was called This Too Shall Pass. And my grandfather, my papa, Harold always used to say that. So they're clearly with us today.
Clearly.
You know, I would love to explore what my mother learned from Millie when she's on the podcast. Millie was, I think, quite volatile, and Millie was very focused. My mom is one of three sisters, and Millie was very focused on how those three sisters looked. And it was so much about how they looked and how they presented that I think when my mother had me, she was like, I am not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Let's also give Millie the benefit of her generation.
Oh my God. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Millie was always well put together and beautiful. She always had her little lipstick. Do you remember the old fashioned lipstick containers with the mirror built in? And she was also like super unconditional with her love to me. That's how I remember her. But I know that my mom, there was like a lot of pressure to look good and kind of perform. So I think my mom had to do a lot of rewriting and rewiring in order to resist that urge to do that to me. Yeah.
It's just fascinating. I'm always wondering what that trickle down.
Yeah.
You know, from if moms are doing something amazing and then, but how did they learn it and who modeled it for them? I think is fascinating.
I love that.
Let's talk a little bit before we wrap up about the culture, the community that your girls are in and how you help manage what is normed in the culture. And there's observations I'm sure that your girls come home with based on what is normed and what they're noticing.
Yes.
And, you know, so that's always at play versus what you value in your own home. Like, and you already told us it's non-negotiable. Everybody exercises. And it's always, I think, a tough balancing act of what do we value in our home and what are the non-negotiables in our home versus what is normed in the community, and where's the Venn diagram, the really nice overlap of those two.
Yeah.
What do you think?
You want to take that one to start?
I think it's really tricky, especially in Miami. It's just it's different than anywhere else I've ever lived. So I'm going to turn to you.
Okay. So, a really interesting example is like you're wearing a pair of Golden Goose and I'm wearing a pair of Golden Goose dupes. Okay. And I like have no judgment on you and you have no judgment on me. Right. And so when Indy comes home and she's like, oh my God, this girl has this designer pair. And I said, well, that's awesome for her. Her family's worked really, really hard to be able to get that. That's amazing. In our family, I'm going to buy the dupe. I might spend the same amount of money on a crystal. Okay. And that's actually factual because I value crystals more than I value the shoes. Sneakers. And I just try to be like, it's all about choices. Mm-hmm. You can have that when you get a little bit older, when you earn the money, but like, let them do them and let us do us. And she's like, I would never buy a dupe. And I'm like, that's totally okay. I'm okay with it because that's just who I am. Mm-hmm. And I just try to practice like acceptance and understanding for all. And like what I want to spend my money on might be different. It's not the label. It might be something else. And I will also say that I am like also learning to appreciate spending money on things that are a little bit more expensive. It's not how I grew up. Mm-hmm, so it's been a little bit more uncomfortable for me. Mm-hmm. But like you gifted me the most beautiful designer bag and I'd never had one before. And it's like, I treasure it. You bought me this incredible watch and I wear it every day. And it has actually helped me up level like my worth in a really weird way. Like it makes me feel special. Mm. And yet I try not to like, Miami is so materialistic and so consumer, deep on the consumerism. I try to straddle the line of like honoring and appreciating what others have and just like, it's okay for us to do it in our own way too.
Exactly. I think I try to straddle that line as well. And also it's not their fault. This is how they're growing up, right? They don't have that perspective.
Oh my God. Yes.
So trying to, point out the things that are really important, but also trying to point out where their grandparents came from, how hard they worked, what opportunities,
And let's face it, like whether we buy labels or not, Miami kids and our kids in general, based on how fortunate we are and based on how hard we've worked, they have way more than let's call it 99%. Exactly. Let's call it as it is. And so just trying to instill gratitude, trying to instill appreciation, trying to I call them out when they're behaving like spoiled, rotten brats. I do. Probably not as much as I should.
But I try to point out to them too, just their surroundings and how we live in a bubble. I mean, even aesthetically in Miami, right? Everything's green, everything's super well manicured. Mm-hmm. Their entire world is kind of in this bubble. Mm-hmm. So trying to point out to them how that's not normal and where
but also the faces, the actual aesthetic of the cosmetic procedure culture here is like a little bit disarming. Yes. And trying to point out like that's her choice. Yep. But let's try to choose to remain a little bit more natural. Like let's lean a little bit more towards the natural. And yet I still tell Indy I get Botox. Of course, I'm not going to lie to her. But I am mindful to point out, what's real and what's not without being critical of others.
Exactly.
Like there are a lot of butts that are not real in this town.
That's correct.
That are alarming. They're alarming. Mm-hmm. And my instinct would be to be like, what the heck? But I swallow that.
Right.
And I like what I'm hearing from both of you. And it's work to sort of stay in this lane, but it's that idea of giving the most generous interpretation or giving the most benefit of the doubt that is available to give, to start there so that when we see somebody with the BBL, the big butt, of which there are many here in Miami that are fake and don't match the rest of the body, it's interesting to force yourself to say, okay, I wouldn't make that choice.
Yeah.
But that's her choice. In her
I always try to
made
say that.
her make that choice.
Yeah.
And then just to get really curious, like, okay, her upbringing must be so interesting, so different than my upbringing that led her to make that decision. But apparently that's what she values. That's what she believes is her way to creatively express herself.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the millionth time, our kids are going to follow after what we model.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the lesson.
It's the lesson. I know.
That's the nugget.
We haven't touched on one part, and it's super important to this conversation, I think. What is it that you think either the schools can do, you can do, even for girls who come to your house and they're not your daughter, they're your friend, the friend of the daughter, even in your community, what's something that adults can do to help girls feel seen and valued right now? And let's take like the 12-year-old group, like tender age, changing, as we said, every week. What comes to mind in terms of what we could do better, either as a community or in a neighborhood, or just to help them feel seen, help them feel valued for who they are?
I will just like put some snacks on the table and be like, so what's going on, guys? I just try to give a safe space for like, you can dump anything here.
Oh, I like
you
that.
can just share whatever's going on. And I'm just like, I just ask a lot of questions. I do like, they'll say something. I'll just repeat it back to them and hope that they continue talking. I feel like that is the best thing I can do for the girls.
Fantastic. It makes them feel welcome and safe.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the thing I'm doing the most, I think.
And also giving them an opportunity to have screen-free time together, just to have fun and be together.
How do you orchestrate that?
So in a big group recently, I've been like at a birthday party we just had, everybody had to put their phones on the side because
was so smart.
That's brilliant.
I think it's also hard when you have a kid that's communicating with, it's been my kid many times, communicating with their parent when they're at a party or at a thing, and also taking, because this generation loves to take these super unflattering photos of themselves and of others. And that is something I noticed that's really troubling for many of the girls.
Yes.
But also just so that they can, have fun and be girls together.
Yes.
Right? Like have a shared experience that we're not documenting, that they're not talking to other people about. But
did you just come up with that day, or did you read about it?
A couple months before I'd seen it or read about it somewhere, but also because I feel like, look, my family's guilty of it. We're guilty of being somewhere together and all being on our phones. And it really bothers me, right?
Yes.
Because it takes that art of just like being present with each other and making small talk. So I do think for the kids, it's really great. That's brilliant. For girls to have screen free.
Did any of the girls fight you or push
back?
Not
a single one. There were 2 times where I saw someone on their phone and I was
my daughter.
Yeah. But I was like,
she's having a bit of a crisis.
Hey, what's going on? And then I texted Dana like, oh, I see Indy's on the phone, just so you know. You know, I see it. But no, they lined them right up. And it was.
I would argue that if we could get inside their heads, there might have even been a little relief.
Well, that's what I do think that. I think sometimes I have a hard time setting boundaries because like I want them to have a good time and I want to, I want everybody to be having fun, but it is a relief when a parent gives you a boundary like that.
It is. And your girls are at that age and the window's going to close really soon where they will still all cooperate with an adult.
Yeah.
Right? And very quickly there'll be a handful of them. It'll be like, oh, actually, no. My mom said that, or some reason why they're going to, and they'll dare to stand up against an adult. So, but it's just, I love the idea. And it's something I know I think about a lot in elevators when I'm going somewhere. And it used to be that there might have been even a little bit of chit chat in an elevator. And now you watch all of us, and as the elevator goes ding,
boom,
boom, because God forbid we have to have the awkwardness of like, how's your day going? Hey, happy Friday. Like we don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even for us, it's a skill that has weakened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. For sure.
Yeah. So a final question that's hokey, but sometimes I like these hokey questions. If you could go back and give your 11-year-old self one message about confidence or self-worth, what do you think it would be?
I would just say, like, you're so freaking amazing. Like, life's just going to be so amazing. You're always going to be so amazing. I've always thought I was amazing.
That is amazing.
And that's your
amazing.
blessing. Like
Such a
that's your blessing. You know?
I can't wait to meet your mom, Dana.
Yeah. No.
She's going to make you feel amazing.
Yeah.
Trust me.
She's going to make you feel amazing. Yeah. I just say, trust it. Trust it.
Exactly.
People try to knock you down. You're not always going to get what you want, but you are so amazing. You're always going to be amazing.
Yep.
Trust that.
Yeah, I would tell my awkward 11-year-old self, because I think that age is possibly the worst, right? That I'm capable and it's all good. I'm going to figure it out, right? Because I think that that's really the message. Like, I didn't understand how to do my hair then. I didn't know how to control it, but like, I figured it out. I was going to figure it out.
You figure everything
No, but
out.
I think like that confidence, I would tell it's going to be fine.
And I might add on to that, like, be patient.
Yeah.
Because it's the patience that allows you to get to the part where you figure it out.
Right.
And I don't know, I think
that's nice.
I'm thinking about my 11-year-old self. I was heavily into ballet, dancing nonstop, always on point, ballet recitals, hair, as you see all the time. This is all result of years of ballet, like slicked, Aquanet, hairspray, everything in its place, and like a ballet master, like, toes pointed, like very rigid, a little bit opposite of yours.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like I have been in a process of like, okay, the hair is still up due to laziness, but like letting it down a little, like letting it relax a little, and being able to say like, it's okay. And for me, I talk about the both and the gray. I think, but when I'm saying it to myself.
Yeah, of course.
Like you're okay in the gray. It doesn't have to be perfect, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, wow. What a privilege to have both of you. Thank you for your time and your insights.
Thank you.
Great conversation. Just so helpful to like get the wisdom from the front lines.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Rethinking Parenting. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to rate, follow, and subscribe. I read all of your comments, feedback, and suggestions, and I so appreciate them. So keep sending them in. Thank you.